this most recent thing with Gemini, with
Oh
Google's,
God, I don't even know. What is this?
Google's AI disaster. Have you not seen this?
No, my mind has
At
been
all?
all studying for this debate. Yeah, what's this?
Allow me to
Yeah,
educate you.
go ahead.
Google.
Oh, wait. Is this the thing where when you ask for pictures, it's always of like black people and Asian people?
That would be correct.
Okay, I've seen the memes. I don't know anything else about it.
Okay, so I don't know it in depth, but I'll try and give you a good overview. It tried to be so anti-racist that it ended up being racist.
Okay.
And it annoyed people on the left because if you asked for an image of some Nazis, it was black Nazis. And then it annoyed people on the right because if you asked for an image of the founding fathers, it was black founding fathers. So everybody got pissed off. And then it sort of it did a combination of hid and erased history in this regard. But people were using its anti-racism to be really racist. So they would say something like, can you give me an image of 14th century philosophers drinking grape juice and eating watermelon? And it would be 4 black people drinking grape juice and eating watermelon. So just the whole retroactive changing of history after the Super Bowl thing where they corrected Alicia Keys' voice, I think at the start, it's all part of some, like a big constellation of different data points that are making people very concerned about what's happening to history and what's unacceptable. It also has implications for whether or not Google itself is a reliable search. Is it going to deliver information in a way which is actually factual? Like, given that so many people are going to use that to try and find something out. What if all of the real stuff is hidden down on page fucking 5?
Yeah.
You don't know. So yeah, I mean, from a branding position, very bad. I could not have done it more poorly than this. And it's probably, according to Mike Baker, it's probably gone through a million different. This isn't the sort of thing. It's not like a Bud Light thing that perhaps was just one part of the marketing department that threw a case of 6-pack at Dylan Mulvaney. This has gone through an awful lot of layers before it's got here. So it doesn't seem like it's happened by accident.
So you think there was like an intentional ploy to make it like not racist, or?
I think that they are force-feeding diversity in so much. Obviously, they didn't mean for it to be so apparent that like anyone with the most basic prompt in history could create something which had a standout. Like, you can't make it to make a family of white, or you couldn't get it to make a family of white people. I think the only way you could get it to make white people is if you ask for Ukrainians.
Nice.
But it was like a Native American president. And show me an image of the king of Spain from the 18th century, and it's like a black guy. So I think that it was force feeding diversity. And you can ask it things like, show me you're working, or ask like, explain to me why you did this. And it's just the most rudimentary, basic, wokey talking points, like the most cringe. Like, it is important that we represent people from diverse backgrounds, and like, just, it was that. So there wasn't much complexity to it, but this force feeding of diversity plays into the DEI concern that a lot of people have at the moment, and it's just more distraction. I'm like, God, like, if this hadn't happened, if you just made it an accurate representation of what people needed, but now we've got another, and I'm right now, this very moment, could be talking about something else that would be really useful, but it's another important cultural moment to try and dissect, to work out what's going on, and it just, every single time, it pushes us back.
I think there are 2 huge issues at play. The first thing is, I always tell people, if you're trying to engage in real, true political discourse, you're trying to understand people, don't ever start with the assumption that people are doing like evil, crazy stuff. I think that when you start from that perspective, you've already lost the ability to understand the other side. So people on the left that want like trans kids legitimately feel like, or a lot of them legitimately feel like there are children that are in need, that have to get some medical stuff to make their lives workable, basically. And I think that probably comes from a place of compassion, generally speaking. I think that when people on the right are fighting against stuff related to trans kids, I think they genuinely believe that there are a lot of children that can get confused and then get swept up in online communities and then start taking medication or hormones, and they don't know what's going on, and it's going to be damaging to them. And I think it generally comes from a place of compassion. I think it's important to start from there, because if you start from the place of like, well, my enemy is trying to destroy the country for XYZ reasons, you're totally lost, right? For the people that did the insurrection on January 6th, I imagine they genuinely thought that the election was stolen. They really did think that that election was stolen and that there was some crazy stuff happening, and that's why they had to go to the White House and try to stop the confirmation of the vote and everything. I genuinely believe that they thought that. Not that they were just like, we're going to mess everything up right now because we're some real bad dudes. I think that I only say that because usually when corporations make mistakes, I think that they're usually trying their best, because when a lot of people are involved, I think they're usually trying their best. Now, if it's just like 1 or 2 people involved, sometimes like personal agendas can really mess things up. But if it's a lot of people involved, the idea that there's like this top-down order of like, okay, guys, fuck white people. We're going to do this. We're going to edit them out. We're going to make sure that we're blah, 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 blah. As opposed to somebody like, listen, we got to make sure that these are, diverse enough. We don't want to have it so every single thing is spitting out a million white people. And then they probably overcorrect.
Also, a lot of cowardice. I think
cowardice.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. This is Andrew Schultz taught me about this. Like Schultz's razor is it's not coordination, it's cowardice.
Sure, yeah, because somebody might be scared of saying like, "Hey, are we fucking up right now, guys?" Because you don't want to be the one to
Precisely,
for sure,
correct.
And that could absolutely be a thing too. Absolutely.
I think that's a big part of it, and especially with this dynamic we're talking about now. Because if you're the guy, it's like being the fucking first person that stops clapping after like some dictator that stands up and gives a speech. I'm not going to be the fucking first person to stop clapping. I'm not going to be the guy that says, maybe this whole diversity thing, maybe it's going too far. Maybe we don't need to do affirmative action. Maybe we should keep the SATs. Maybe they do actually have
maybe men actually need a little bit of affirmative action in school, or maybe we're going a little bit too far on having 20% of our advertisements about trans people.
So you think that you want to get women out of the boardroom and back into the kitchen? Is that right?
But remember, it's because a slight difference in applied position will be interpreted as a huge difference in fundamental moral belief. You want to cut trans advertising because you hate trans people. You want to get back on the diversity stuff because you think white people are better than black people, right? That's always where it goes. So it's so hard and in these environments, it's going to be a lot of like-minded people. It's so hard for them to course correct, which is why I talk about how when those two groups like branch off into their own thing, that is incredibly destructive. I hate the fact that conservatives all talked about how we need to get out of the schools because they're corrupt and whatever the fuck, because now the people in the schools are even more fucking insane. I need you there. You need to be there. You got to be participating. Or when left-leaning people don't want to participate in certain aspects of like conservative culture, when left-leaning people don't want to celebrate success or wealth or businesses doing well or patriotism. Okay, well, cool. Well, now if I'm a patriotic American, I basically have to be a fucking conservative because I'm not going to be patriotic on the side that's telling me to hate my country for fucking slavery and colonialism and white supremacy.
Recap that. So it's the difference in applied position is indicative of a change in value.
That's what people feel like.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So just because this is something that you want to have happen in the real world, there is an implication about your moral stance.
Because for most people, they didn't do the work to go from the initial, the grounded ethical stance to the applied position. And since they didn't do the work, it's one and the same to them. That's why if I talk about Israel-Palestine, it's so frustrating. It still happens. If I talk about Israel-Palestine, I don't think I would say anything happening right now is apartheid or genocide. They don't hear, okay, you don't think it's apartheid or genocide. They hear, you think it's okay what's happening? You think that Palestinians should live in territories where they never get a state? You think it's okay to kill civilians? That's what people hear. The same way that you might say, I don't know if I support affirmative action. You just don't like black people. You think that it's their fault, everything in the United States. Or if you say, maybe we've gone a bit too far on the diversity stuff, they're like, oh, okay, well, the only reason you can think that is because you hate diversity and you're a white supremacist. Yeah, because those things are so connected.
So it's not a slippery slope it's like an interpretation of slippery slopeness. It's this very small iceberg above the water. This happens.
It's not even a slippery slope. It's a horizontal platform. That's it. These things are here. That's why when you there's who's the Alex O'Connor worker or whatever. There's a ethical position. I think it's called you can be an ethical anti-realist who believes in non-cognitivism. And when you believe in non-cognitivism, what you're saying is when I express a moral proposition, I say that murder is bad. What I'm actually doing is I'm just expressing an emotional state. Murder, boo. I don't like murder. Murder, boo.
Emotive.
I think it's non-cognitivism, right?
No.
Is it emotive positivism?
Fucking goddamn it!
I can spit out random philosophy terms.
He's gonna scream at me. He taught me about this 2 nights ago in Miami. He came out for my birthday. Emotive, fucking epistemics or something like that.
Maybe that.
But yeah, it's basically. This is one of his best ideas that he taught me and I've now forgotten. But yes, it's basically whenever somebody says that they're in support of something or against something, it's basically like, yay, abortion or boo, abortion.
Exactly, yes.
And then they work back from that position and just try and
They don't even work back. They just sit there.
Yes, okay.
That's why, so like for instance, if a girl releases a story, I cover a lot of... we call them rape reviews on my stream. It's a little crude.
Reviews.
Yeah, because people put out the Me Too stories and then we'll read through them. It's like, okay, well, do we feel like it's a credible allegation or what's going on?
Okay.
And for a lot of these things, if you say woman raped, what you're really saying is what happened to her was really bad. And if somebody else...
Boo rape.
Yeah. Or boo, whatever that was.
Right.
And if you Kanye's like, well, I looked at this. I think the guy was definitely pushy. There might have been like some groping, like not good sexual stuff. I don't think it was rape. They hear you saying rape, yay. Or if you push against the diversity measures, white supremacy, yay. Or if you push against the, the trans youth stuff, like, oh, discrimination, yay. Oh, trans suicide, yay. Because for a lot of people, the applied position and the ethical position are one and the same. These are inexorably linked, and there is no difference that can happen. Which again, if you're debating somebody different than you, who the fuck cares? I don't care if we have different applied and ethical positions. We're supposed to. But if it's somebody similar to you, we can't be disagreeing. What do you mean you don't think there's a genocide? You think it's okay to murder innocent civilians? Like those two things are linked and they're not. It's a total non sequitur. Yeah.